The Iron Bowl is upon us. We're going to talk about that and more on this episode of Tide Talk Live. Welcome, everybody, into another edition of Tide Talk Live. Stacey Blackwood here, joined as always by Jake Thomas. Jake, the Iron Bowl is here. I'm excited. I know you're excited. I cannot wait to talk about it. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Just full up on turkey and dressing, and I still got three more this weekend to go through. So, I'm gonna be sick of it for another year. But anyway, other than that, I'm doing good, man. How about yourself?
I'm great. I'm excited. The wife and I and our best friends are going to be heading down to the Iron Bowl tomorrow, so we're excited about that. It's our first Iron Bowl. Our friends, it's their first ever college football game. Period. So it
Wow.
should be a lot of fun. So we're excited about that. Cannot wait to be down there in Tuscaloosa. So if you see us down there, feel free to come and chit chat with me. I would love to meet each and every one of you. Jake, before we get started, everybody knows the drill. If you're not already, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up. We appreciate everybody that is tuning in to Tide Talk Live, whether it's on YouTube or in the podcast form. We still have hundreds of listens on every episode on the podcast form as well. So we're really thankful for that as well. Jake, you know, there's so much going on right now in the SEC,
Yeah.
in the state of Alabama. The Auburn coaching vacancy is really taking over the headlines, and the game is not being talked about as much as what maybe the players or and the coaches that are actually on the team right now would like. But before we really dive into the X's and O's of the matchup tomorrow, what are your thoughts on the open spot there on the Plains?
Well, beginning of the week, it was almost a foregone conclusion that Lane Kiffin was going to take that, and then like Tuesday, Wednesday, especially Wednesday, it was like back and forth. I mean, it was like straddling the fence per se. 1 hour you have Lane's leaving, the next hour was like, well, he's going to stay, and Auburn will eventually change their focus over to Hugh Freeze. Now, in my personal opinion, Hugh Freeze will be a better fit than Lane Kiffin there.
I agree.
Uh, I mean, he's got two wins against Nick Saban, and the thing about the difference between Hugh and Lane is Hugh is more committed to staying at a program, you know, than Lane is. Lane kind of likes to tend where the best job's at right now, and I mean, I don't fault him for that. But but Hugh, I mean, whoever heard of Liberty football until Hugh Freeze got there and made them relevant? And he's been there 7, 8 years now, I believe. And I mean, they've been in the top 25. I mean, I never would expect Liberty in my lifetime being a top 25 football team, and he's got them there. So I think Hugh would be a better fit, consistent wise, for them to go that route.
Well, and you wouldn't get quite all the outside noise that you would receive as with Lane Kiffin as your head coach. I think as an Alabama fan, I would fear the hire of Hugh Freeze more than Lane
Absolutely.
Kiffin. That's
Yep.
just my personal opinion. That's not a knock on Kiffin. I think Kiffin's a great coach. We've talked about that, a lot on this show before. But I'm with you. As an Alabama fan, I would rather them hire Kiffin than I would them hire Hugh Freeze. And
Right.
I'm with you, Jake. I don't know what they're going to do. I have no idea what's going on. I've heard that for sure it's Lane. I've heard for sure it's not Lane. I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't think anybody knows. I'm not even sure the board of trustees at Auburn know who the next head coach is going to be. And supposedly there was going to be an announcement today, and I don't think that's going to happen now. It doesn't look like that's going to be the case. It could be after the Iron Bowl. Shoot, if it's Kiffin, he could make the announcement during the middle of the Iron Bowl tomorrow, just to throw some shade at Nick Saban and Alabama.
Oh yeah.
That would not surprise me at all. But this vacancy and this this kind of back and forth between Kiffin has been really wild to follow this week. And I don't think it's over with. I think there's still a couple of days before something for sure or concrete is made. But we'll find out. It looks like Matt Rule's probably going to take that Nebraska job from
Yep.
everything that I've been seeing today. So he's a name that's off the board. I don't think Auburn was really pursuing him, but it feels like they've kind of put all their eggs in the Lane Kiffin basket. So we'll just kind of see what happens there. They've kind of, ever since this is kind of Auburn has fired Brian Harsin, Kiffin is 0-3.
Yeah. Yeah.
They lost. Who'd they play before Alabama?
Was it A&M?
I can't
No.
remember. They lost
Yeah.
they lost to
Yeah.
Alabama. They
Mhm.
lost. Who'd they lose to last?
LSU, Arkansas,
They lost to Alabama, Arkansas, and then Mississippi State last night.
Mississippi
Jake.
State. Yeah.
Just crazy that that they finished 8-4, and look, like we said, Kiffin's a good coach, but do they want 8-4? Is that what Auburn wants?
I mean, we have talked about it, before on this show about how this historic run for Alabama has put in a mindset that some teams are better than they historically are. And we talked about Auburn is historically a 9-win team. Now, we don't care. I mean, we're fine with them trying to get better. That's what football teams are supposed to do. But historically, they are about an 8 to 9 win team, and they once in a blue moon, once a decade, they have a great run where they get in the national championship game. That's just historically who Auburn is.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, if they want 8, 9 wins, which they should, because that's what they are, then they'll be fine with it. But if they want that next step, you got to go after Hugh Freeze. That's just my personal opinion.
I agree with you, Jake. I'm 100% on board with you. If I'm Auburn, I forget Lane Kiffin and I go for Hugh Freeze.
Yeah.
And I think it's for the same reason. I think we both believe that Lane Kiffin can get Auburn to 9 wins a year and do that pretty consistently. Hugh Freeze will get you the 9 wins a year too, but then about every 4th or 5th year, you're going to be, probably playing Alabama in the Iron Bowl for a chance to go to Georgia, to Atlanta for the SEC championship game, to make a bid for the college football playoff. So
exactly,
I just think Hugh Freeze gives them that extra gear that they would not get from Lane Kiffin. But that's just my personal opinion.
And one other thing I want to say is Auburn honestly has backed themselves into a corner, because with Cadillac situation, the fans are 100% behind Cadillac, and he has got the team we talked about playing real hard right now. But it's pretty much a foregone conclusion he's not going to be the head coach, even though a lot of fans are wanting him. This new administration, new coaching staff comes in, they better hire him as either offense coordinator or running backs coach, or you're going to have mutiny again in this situation. So, I mean, they pretty much painted themselves in the corner, and it's going to be real bad, if they do not hire him.
Yeah, I think it's obvious that you have to keep Cadillac on staff
Absolutely,
in some capacity.
Yeah,
I'm with you. If they don't do that, they're just dumb.
Yeah,
but I think that's enough of coaching talk, Jake. Let's just get down to the game. Look, Alabama's the better team,
right?
We all know that. Even Auburn fans know that. But like you mentioned, Cadillac has this team playing with their hair on fire. They play hard. They play with belief, and they really, want to, be great for Cadillac. I really believe that. And Alabama is, I don't want to say disappointed in where they're at, because the truth is, Jake, there's still a slight possibility they could make the playoff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's slim and not really probable, but it is possible. But this team already has 2 losses, something that is not used to having come Iron Bowl time. So the mindset of each team is going to be interesting to start the game. I know we kind of talked about it earlier in this week when we recapped the Austin Peay game and just kind of gave a quick look ahead to this game, Jake, that the emotion going into this contest, like that first quarter, is going to be something to watch out for both teams, on how they come into the matchup and how they're prepared to deal with the emotions of the environment and the emotions of the magnitude of the situation. This is likely Cadillac's last game as Auburn's interim head coach. And this is, Bryce Young's last game in Bryant-Denny Stadium, possibly his last game overall for Alabama, depending on what he decides to do. in the postseason. So there's a lot going into this game outside of what's going to happen in the game in between the lines. So just your thoughts, Jake, on just the emotional side of this contest and how you think that's going to play out, especially, there in that first quarter of that matchup.
Yeah, you're 100% right. That first quarter, I think it's going to be a grudge match. I mean, it's going to be two powerhouses, going toe to toe. It's like Muhammad Ali versus, whoever, he fought back in the day. That was another powerhouse. Maybe Tyson and Frazier, maybe Tyson and Evander Holyfield top five. It's just going to be, but I think this game is going to be very important in the trenches. Who wins in the trenches? And overall, Alabama's offensive line is far better than Auburn's has been this year. But defensive line, I think this Alabama's going to have to show up defensively on that defensive line, and at least get some pressure on Ashford. And if they run it up the middle, you need to get a stop, or at least hit him on the line to get the linebackers there in position to make a tackle on Jaquez Hunter or Tank Bigsby. So we just can't let Bigsby and Hunter have a big day on the ground. So that's one thing I'm watching for, is how we do in the trenches in this game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously. So that's really a big part of the game for both teams. You mentioned Auburn's offensive line; they're not that great. They've had a lot of injuries.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really push anybody around. So it's really important for Alabama's defensive front to slow down really the one-dimensional offense that Auburn is. Jake, let's just call a spade a spade. Robbie Ashford, he's improved, but he's not a playmaker in the passing game. He doesn't really have any playmakers to throw it to in the passing game. So they're really relying on his legs, on Tank Bigsby, and then Jaquez Hunter, Jake, to make yardage on the ground. And I just don't see how they can do that enough for 4 quarters to match what Alabama and Bryce Young is going to do on the opposite side, Jake. I think that Bryce Young in this offense, now that Jahmyr Gibbs is probably going to be back, Cameron Latou is probably going to be back, I'm anxious to see how they utilize Jace McClellan with Gibbs back, Jake, because I think you still have to feed McClellan. McClellan is without a doubt Alabama's best in between the tackles runner. So I think it's and Auburn's defensive front is vulnerable against the run up the middle. So I think it'd be important for Alabama to establish that physical rushing attack with Jace McClellan, and then use Gibbs to make plays after that. In space, create mismatches, wear that defense down. Then you hit him with Gibbs, who, with a burst of lightning, and he's gone for 80 yards. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how Bill O'Brien uses McClellan and Gibbs this week, because I think they both could be in for huge days in different ways against, like I said, this Auburn defensive front that's really vulnerable against the run.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Jace McClellan has come on fire the last couple of games here. He had a really great showing last week. I think 155 yards rushing is what he had. So, you've got to feed him a little bit, but you also got to give Gibbs his opportunity as well. Because, I mean, talent-wise, he's probably the best running back, in there, but McClellan's right there with him. I would like to see, I know it's kind of late in the season to try to change formations, but having both of them on the field beside Bryce Young in this game. I mean, it's the Iron Bowl, and it's pretty much we're not playing next week, and then we got a couple weeks to the bowl games, and I mean, just throw it all out there, Bill.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I think this is the week and the game that you kind of let it all hang out. If you're Bill O'Brien, don't hold anything back. You have nothing to lose. And by the way, Jake, I'm not sure that Bill O'Brien will coach the bowl game for Alabama.
Right. Yeah.
There's a lot of talk that he's probably going to take that Georgia Tech job.
Yeah.
And I think that could happen as soon as Sunday or Monday.
Yeah. So, if he wants to show that Georgia Tech that, hey, this is what I want to do, for you guys, here you go. This is the opportunity to do it.
And look, we've talked about Bill O'Brien. Neither one of us are happy with the job that Bill O'Brien has done, but the dude can coach ball, Jake. He's much like Doug wasn't a good fit last year as the offensive line coach. Bill O'Brien is just not a good fit for Alabama. And that's okay. The two things can be true at the same time. Bill O'Brien knows football, but he just doesn't fit well at Alabama.
Right.
And you know, it's
Exactly.
just it was a miss on Saban's part hiring him. But you know, it wasn't a bad hire at the time. You know, when you
Right.
bring in Bill O'Brien, you're thinking, man, that's a great hire.
I mean, he coached the NFL. I
Right.
mean,
I mean,
yeah.
he coached Tom Brady. He's coached
Right.
Deshaun Watson. He's coached some of the best quarterbacks to ever play at the next level. And for whatever reason, it just didn't work at Alabama. Not that it didn't work. It didn't work to the standard that it should have worked.
Right.
It wasn't a
Mhm.
complete failure. I mean, Alabama's still averaging 40 points a game for crying out loud, like sixth in the country in scoring, but it's not what it should be.
Right.
It could
Yeah.
be better. And that's the
Yeah.
point that Alabama fans have, and that I think that most people watching Alabama understand that it's just not as good as it could be considering the talent on the field.
Yeah, I've heard this my entire life, but and actually one of my old bosses, one that told me this, but it feels like Alabama's offense this year has been consistently inconsistent.
Yep.
And that's, I mean, 40 points. A lot of teams will be like, my God, I wish we had y'all's problem. We could score 40 points a game. But, like the Austin P game last week, we talked about it. It was 17-0 at halftime. I mean, it should have been 17-0 after the first quarter, after the first
Right.
3 drives, or,
Right.
something like that. So it's just, so
It's Jake, the untimely turnovers, and
right.
you can't just that's on the players, of course, but it's
Mhm.
also on the coaches not putting him in the best situation.
Right.
It's untimely penalties, it's Bryce Young injury. All that has played a factor into the performance that the offense has had this season, and I think it's unfair to just pinpoint it on Bill O'Brien, but he is
Mhm.
the coordinator, and
Mhm.
that's where the responsibility lies.
Right. Exactly. So, he's going to be great somewhere else. I mean,
I do.
he's
I
shown
think he'll be a
yeah,
good coach. I think he'll
I
be
do
a good
too.
coach at Georgia Tech.
I do too. I mean, he did it at Penn State,
Yeah.
so uh, he's going to have a rebuilding here in Georgia Tech, and I think he's going to do real well there. And whoever the next guy is that comes in OC at Alabama, he's going to have a challenge on his hands. I don't want to look forward to the future, but I mean, he's got to groom a new quarterback for this program. So that's for another talk. But the next guy is going to have his hands full as well.
Yeah, we kind of got off track there.
Yeah.
but getting back to the game, Jake, we were
Mhm.
talking about how it was important for Alabama and Bill O'Brien to just kind of let it all hang out this week or tomorrow in the Iron Bowl, Jake, and I think we'll see a little more flair. I would like to see a little more tempo. I feel
Yeah.
like Alabama plays better in the tempo. Bryce Young is obviously better in the tempo. There's too many plays where we let the play clock run down under 5 seconds, and it just kind of seems like it stagnates the offense. And I just think that the team plays better when they're a little bit faster pace. And I look for that to go on, and I look for a heavy dose of the running game and some maybe deep shots in the passing game. Against an Auburn defense that is just not very good, if we're being honest.
Right. And I've heard you say this before too, Stacey, that sometimes teams get ahead of themselves when they're doing play calling. And I've seen it a lot this year. A lot of teams play a lot better in a 2-minute offense than they do their other 60 minutes, 45 minutes of the game or whatever. I mean, I just don't know what it is. But that up tempo. You go up tempo and you don't make you have the alignment and the personnel you need on the field. That way the defense can't make adjustments. If they do, you could probably get a 12th man penalty on them because they got too many people on the field. And you just go with what you got and make that work. And I've seen it a lot this year. I mean, even in the Egg Bowl last night, I think the last drive Ole Miss had, when they had to go down, I think they had like 2 minutes left to go in the game, and they had to get a touchdown, like 95 yards. They ran 2-minute offense. They got down there and they scored. I just don't understand why more teams don't do the up-tempo stuff, because it can cause a lot of mismatches.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Jake, before we give our score predictions, I want, and I'll give my 3 after you give your 3, Jake. I want 3 things that you believe need to happen for Alabama to win this game tomorrow.
Well, it looks like it's gonna be nasty. There's gonna be some rain, so we need some turnovers defensively, and I expect that ball is gonna be wet. So I expect DeMarco Hellens to be a heat-seeking missile, and if he pops somebody like we know he can, that ball is gonna be on the ground. So we need to cause some turnovers, and we just need to play Alabama football. just play within ourselves and just go out there and have fun. I mean, like you said, this is probably Will Anderson and Bryce Young's last opportunity to play, or will be the last opportunity to play at Bryant-Denny. Jordan Battle, same way. Who else? There's a couple
Helms,
others.
Byron Young,
Yeah.
probably Henry To'oTo'o, Jalen Moody.
Right. So just go out there and have fun, play your game. And and you've been in that program long enough. This is a very important rivalry game, and it's one that Alabama hates to lose in. So go out there, have fun, but play Alabama football like you should have been all season, and just make a statement. And the underclassmen who's coming back next year, make that statement that say, hey, you saw what happened in 2019 in the Citrus Bowl. This is what we're going to do in the year after. We dominated college football and we won a national championship. That's what we're going to do next year to college football. Just wait. That's what I want to see. I want to see that grit, and I want to see that hustle that Alabama's used. We hadn't seen yet from Alabama this year.
Yeah, all great points. I think Alabama needs to play a clean game, and what I mean by a clean game, no penalties, no turnovers, and no boneheaded plays. Like, don't get a pass interference call when it's 3rd and 15.
Right. Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Jake, if Alabama just plays a clean game, they'll cover that 22-point spread. Absolutely. Because that's how much better they are than Auburn. But we haven't really seen that, at least consistently, from Alabama this season.
Right.
So they need to play consistently clean throughout the entire contest. I think we need to establish a physical identity in this game, both offensively and defensively. And I think we need to get Bryce Young to hit some deep shots when they're there. Now, if the rain is just, pouring down, obviously that changes things a little bit from that front. But it looks like it's going to be kind of hit or miss, and the timing of the rain could be more towards the end of the contest. So it just kind of depends on the weather on that part of it. But I would like to see the defense just come out and make a statement, Jake. This defense is capable of shutting this Auburn team out.
Oh, absolutely.
This defense is capable of putting a goose egg on the board. And so I think I'm not expecting them to do that, but Jake, they need to come out and make a statement. Right. Will Anderson, Henry To'oTo'o, Brian Branch, DeMarco Helms, Jordan Battle, Byron Young, those dudes need to come out and show that they are and just play to that Bama standard on defense.
Right. Exactly.
That's what I want to see from those guys. I know they can do it. Jake, they can do it. There's no doubt about it in my mind. Yeah, it's been a frustrating season because of the inconsistencies from this team. But tomorrow you can make a lot of people happy if you come out there and just slobber knock Auburn.
Yeah. And what a better way to take out your anger and frustration than on your rival.
Exactly.
In a big rival game. So
exactly.
And these guys can do it, like you said. And I'm looking forward to the matchup. Hopefully the weather holds off late in that contest, and hopefully by then when it comes in, Alabama has it in hand easily, so it won't make much of a difference. So
yeah. All right, Jake, before we head out, we got to drop our score predictions. Jake, I don't know about you. I have struggled with a score prediction all week. I've changed mine about 57,000 times in my head.
Yeah.
But real quick, what's your score prediction for tomorrow?
If it rains pretty much the entire game, I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. It's going to be a lot of clock run. But if the rain kind of in between and doesn't pick up till late in the game, Alabama has a chance to use that weaponry on the offense side, and have Bryce Young throw it around, all that. If it's raining, he might not be able to throw it as much. But I'm going to say like 35-14, 35-17 top game.
Okay, we're pretty much in the same neighborhood, Jake. I'm with you. It's the weather is kind of throwing a kink in this as well. Not only are the teams a kink in it, but the weather is also kind of messing things up for me. I'm going to go 37-13 Alabama. I think that for the first quarter and a half, I think maybe even, with about 6 minutes left to go in that second quarter, you look up and Alabama's up like 10-7, and you're like, man, and then Alabama scores, right before half, and then just really takes over the game for the rest of the contest. And I think Alabama gets that win 37-13. I struggled earlier in the week to think that they would cover that spread, but the closer the game gets, I feel like they do cover, and I feel like Alabama has a big day, and Alabama finishes the season strong to once again win 10 games in the regular season. Jake, just that'd be I think 12 straight seasons of winning 10 regular season games. Just a phenomenal feat.
Absolutely, and it's incredible. We're complaining about how this season's gone, but again, a lot of teams would love to have a 10-win season. So it's crazy.
No doubt, but yeah, all right, Jake. I cannot wait. I'll be sending some pictures tomorrow from down there in Tuscaloosa.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to my first Iron Bowl game in the stands, so I'm excited about that. But that's going to wrap this episode up, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for just enjoying our show, whether it's on YouTube or on podcast form. We really appreciate everybody that tunes into our show and all the positive comments that we receive there. On YouTube or in the podcast reviews or just wherever it might be. Thank you guys so much. You make this possible. You make it to where we want to do this and continue to do this. So thank you so much for that. If you're not already, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, give this video a thumbs up, and jump in the comment section and drop your score predictions. But for Stacey Blackwood and Jake Thomas, this has been Tide Talk Live. And until next time, roll Tide.
Roll Tide.